It is not often that a continent, any continent, including Africa, produces a statesman of the caliber and stature of President Olusegun Obasanjo. Baba, to some of us, his friends and admirers. It is also not often that such a statesman takes the time to capture his experiences, thoughts, and ideas in a book as a gift to all who care about the development of Africa. For those of us who have been given the privilege to lead our countries, we are constantly grappling with the question of why Africa, a continent endowed with so much wealth and natural resources, continues to lag behind other continents. Why are things not working in our countries the way they do in other parts of the world? How can we bring about the changes required to make Africa work? Making Africa work is therefore a major contribution to the discourse on African economic development. The most important issue facing African countries today is that of unemployment, especially youth unemployment. Of the 1.2 billion 15 to 24-year-olds in the world, 200 million of whom are in Africa, about 75 million are looking for work. Africa has the youngest population in the world, and about 10 million to 12 million young people join the labor market every year. This means that even to keep the level of unemployment at current levels, African economies have to create some 10 to 12 million jobs a year. To reduce the current levels of unemployment, many more jobs would have to be created. This is the challenge of the century for African countries. The issue of youth unemployment is not only an economic issue, but has become a security issue, as we have seen from the Arab Spring, where youth unemployment and discontent provided the spark for the uprising in Tunisia. In Ghana, about 60% of the unemployed are in the 15 to 24 years age group. The interesting aspect of unemployment in Africa is that it is occurring within the context of underdevelopment, with so much work that needs to be done. Work in the areas of infrastructure, roads, railways, water transportation, housing, energy, agriculture, schools and hospitals, dams, etc., is needed for economic development. Skilled workers, such as teachers and nurses, doctors, engineers, accountants, planners, architects, chemists, plumbers, mechanics, carpenters, etc., are also in short supply relative to demand. Most African countries are endowed with great wealth in the form of natural resources such as oil, gas, gold, diamonds, timber, bauxite, iron ore, etc. This notwithstanding, African economies face the challenge of creating jobs. One can understand the situation of the advanced and mature economies, where most of the infrastructure, etc., is in place. But it is difficult to accept same in the case of developing African economies. The continent can certainly do better than this. how should we approach the problem of unemployment from the standpoint of economic development? Mr. Chairman, employment is created when goods and services are produced for which there is a demand. This means that you must have the ability to produce the goods, and there must also be a demand either internally or externally for the good or service. In an era of global competition, a large number of countries are trying to find markets for their goods and services abroad to generate employment at home. Let us not make any mistake about it. In the global marketplace, every other country is a competitor. That is the mindset African countries must have. There is no separate global standard for African countries because they happen to be African. The competition is ruthless. We cannot enter this competition with a mindset of dependency. We must build economies beyond aid. I was elected 6 months ago by the good people of Ghana to tackle two issues: jobs and corruption. The two issues are not unrelated. On the key issue of job creation, we recognize that the ability of government to create jobs on its own is limited. Sustained job creation is largely a private sector phenomenon. It is for this reason that we have set out to build the most business-friendly economy in Africa. We are therefore moving quickly to create an environment that would unleash the innovative and entrepreneurial instincts of the Ghanaian people to drive rapid growth and job creation. The major opportunities for job creation my government is pursuing are in a few selected areas. We inherited an economy that recorded a fiscal deficit of 9.3%, a debt-to-GDP ratio of 73%, and a growth rate of 3.6%, the lowest in over 20 years. We have quickly moved to restore fiscal discipline by passing a budget that will bring down the deficit to 6.3% by the end of 2017. The economy has responded positively to this. Interest rates on the money markets have declined, the exchange rate is relatively stable, inflation is on the decline, and economic growth has picked up in the first half of the year. We're going to pass a new law that will limit Ghana's fiscal deficit going forward to between 3 and 5% of GDP in any given year. Our first budget, introduced in March, introduced very significant tax reforms. These included the following: abolition of levies imposed on Kaya by local authorities, abolition of the 1% special import levy, abolition of the 17.5% VAT on domestic airline tickets, abolition of the 17.5% VAT on financial services, abolition of the 17.5% VAT on selected imported medicines that are not produced locally, abolition of the 5% VAT on real estate sales, abolition of duty on the importation of spare parts, reduction of the public lighting levy from 5% to 2%, and reduction of the special petroleum tax rate from 17.5% to 15%. We expect these tax reforms, which individuals and businesses are benefiting from, to provide incentives for increased production of goods and services. To reduce the cost of doing business, We have announced the implementation of 3 major policies to take effect on September 1st, 2017. These include going paperless at our ports to minimize all the human interference in the clearing and forwarding process, removing all internal customs barriers along our highways, putting in place mandatory joint inspections of shipments. By the end of the year, we expect to reduce drastically the time for clearing a container at the port to a maximum of 4 hours. Agriculture continues to be the anchor of the country's economy, with more than half of our workforce drawing their living from it. It is our most important opportunity for job creation. Our strategy to transform agriculture is anchored on 3 pillars. A, let us plant food to meet our basic needs and also as a means to create jobs. B, let us promote agro-processing. And C, let us find new markets for our products to guarantee our farmers decent incomes. Foods and Jobs Program has already registered 185,000 farmers against a target of 200,000 in all the 216 districts. Of note, 34,000 of these farmers were registered electronically. To boost the program, government is bearing 50% of the cost of fertilizers for the farmers. And to date, 80,037 tons of our target 156,000 metric tons of fertilizer have been distributed to farmers enrolled on the program. Furthermore, we have made funding available for the One Village, One Dam policy in the 2017 budget. Industrialization through value addition to our raw materials is another major opportunity for job creation. We've begun work on our One District, One Factory policy, which will include small, medium, and large-scale factories driven by the private sector. Government has embarked on a mission to develop Ghana by leveraging our natural resources for the benefit of all. We're now discussing a major package for the development of an integrated aluminum industry. This package will allow us to fund projects which are not commercially viable on their own, with proceeds from our share of the bauxite, which will be mined and refined. The informal nature of our economy is a major constraint to our development. It affects our ability to broaden the tax base, deepen and widen financial inclusion, and in delivery of good services to those most in need. It is a barrier to job creation. We're therefore taking bold steps to formalize the economy and the way in which we conduct our everyday activities, including the way government delivers services to citizens most in need. To this end, we have begun 3 initiatives: the National Digital Addressing System, the National Identification Scheme, and an interoperable electronic platform for the payment of goods and services and electronic transfers across the country. We expect that all these transformational initiatives will enhance job creation. Corruption undermines the ability of governments to create jobs as much needed resources are stolen. Therefore, a major opportunity for job creation is by dealing with corruption. Already, government has started comprehensive audits of various institutions. The findings to date reveal the depth of the rot that has almost become the character of the way we treat public resources and the way we perform our public duties and deliver public services. We have also taken a new law to Parliament to create an office of a special prosecutor to fight corruption, and moved to make procurement transparent by implementing an e-procurement platform a few weeks ago. Hopefully, I've given you a reasonably accurate picture of what this new 6-month-old government is doing. Making Africa Work is compulsive reading. I recommend it to everyone. Thank you for your attention.